Hello world. Let's get started with another Google App Scripting video. This week I got an email from Chuck Warner giving me an idea that because of the COVID-19 virus that is sending everyone into work from home mode, people are having to scramble to get Google Classroom set up for dozens or hundreds of users even. Size of school districts can get into the thousands, and creating all of those courses takes a lot of manual effort. Well, I'm going to do a quick demonstration of a very small scale version of that. I have a spreadsheet with 4 courses here. Let's create the Google Classrooms. Right now I've archived all of my old demo classes, and let's create these courses. Now, I just set this up quickly. I'm going to do this live, kind of talk through my thought process about building this as I go. So I'll probably make some mistakes along the way. And I'm using the little plus syntax to differentiate between emails, but I think that we'll use the same email address so they'll all still show up here, but we will find out in a moment. So I already have my script editor open, and I have a couple of API references here. I'll try to show how I look at these to use them to develop. And you can see all of the create, read, update, deletes operations on the side, but we won't have to use that too much, I don't believe. So let's just call this main, and let's spell out exactly what I'll be doing here. The first thing I need to do is get the courses from the spreadsheet. Then I need to create the courses on the classroom. And then I want to write the course URL and share code. So 3 main steps, and these will probably get broken down into larger steps. So let's dive into the very first one. Okay, wrote a little function, get courses from spreadsheet. All it's doing is grabbing all of the rows and then returning that data up to my main function. So I have a courses variable. This will be a multi-dimensional array where every element in the array is an array of the rows. So element 0, because it's 0 indexed, is going to be the headers. Element 1 is going to be the math, so on and so forth. And we'll see what that looks like. And in fact, let's log that right here. And go ahead and give ourselves some permissions. And we'll take a look at that in the logs. And there we go. So you've got the multi-dimensional array, bracket, bracket, and then each row. And it looks like it's grabbing some empty rows there at the end. We can actually filter those, and we'll use some of this new technology, the V8 technology, and we're going to filter out row. I think we could do not row. Let's run that again and see. That's not going to work. We'll just leave it for now. Okay, so we have that situated. Now we've got our courses, and we could actually probably fine tune this to return every row as an object with the headers as the keys to an object, but this is going, if there's some time at the end, we'll do that. I also want to do, let's do data.shift off those headers and take a look and make sure that we just have the courses themselves. One other thing I'm going to do is switch to console.log. That way we can maybe see the results a little more quickly than with the logger.log. Well, let's go ahead and start creating these courses. We're going to need to activate the advanced Google services, which is now easier than ever because somewhere in here, Google Classroom API, we can just flip that on and click OK. And now we have access to those classroom, there it is, classroom methods and tools for doing exactly what we need here. So let's do new course. Let's go through. Let's see what all the auto completion options are, because really it'll probably match the API, and that's why I'd opened this up at first. So if we look at the create for course, let's look at what the method wants. The request body contains an instance of a course, and then it'll respond with that same course. Let's take a look at what a course looks like with the ID, name, section, owner. Owner, I think we will have to do name, description, owner. And what we want to get back is this enrollment code and the link. So that should be exactly what we're looking for. Okay. Let's dive back over into the code. Let's do classroom, new course, and we should be able to look for a create. Okay, so that took me a few extra minutes because I was doing something wrong. You may have noticed. But now I've broken this out so it makes a little bit more sense. So I'm taking each of the courses and I'm going to send them over to a create course resource function, which I've created down here at the bottom. And let me just space this up so we can see. And what this is going to do, it takes the course, the row, and I'm going to just take the first 3 elements from that array. This is called destructuring. The first 3 elements, and I'm putting them into variables so that I can better understand exactly what they are. Then I'm creating the resource with this new course, and I'll give it the name, owner ID, and description, and I'm using the email and the instructor name, and then I'm going to send that resource back. Because what we need to do then is classroom courses create. And I need to give it that resource that we have just created. So for each loop, we're going to create that resource. And I will actually, let's save this as the response. Actually, we can look at the autocomplete and it returns the course. I don't want to save it into a variable called course. I'll just call it response. And what we can do, let's save everything into responses. Now, as I'm talking out loud, I'm realizing a better way to do this. Instead of for each and then doing that, let's map does the exact same thing. It's still going to iterate over every element, but we're going to return everything into an array. So we can actually return that response, and all of those responses will get saved into an array here, responses. And when we're at the end, let's just console.log responses. And let's see what's going to happen there. And I need to give it new permissions. This time it probably wants, yep, classroom stuff, because it wants to modify my classrooms. And it says does not have permission. This is probably because the emails that I'm using here, because of those emails. Let's try one other thing you can do with owner ID is you can give it the me string, and that will give makes you the owner here. Now, this is gonna take a little bit of, I'm a little curious because if you were an administrator of a domain, though that's not true, I am an administrator of this domain. So I should, in theory, be able to create accounts for other users. Now, one other thing I noticed when looking at the resource is there's teacher group emails, and so maybe you can. This is an email address of a Google group containing all teachers of the course. Because the owner ID, it specifies the numeric identifier for the user, the email address of the user, or the string literal me indicating the requesting user. Okay, so that's what I've chosen to try here. Admins can also specify this field in a patch course request to transfer ownership. In other contexts, it is read-only. So that could be something for a future video to try. That maybe you can create all of. It looks like it's done. So let's look at class. There we go. Perfect. So, and you're invited to teach this class created by your administrator. Now, I wonder if you supplied other emails. I'm sure you can, and then it says accept or decline. Well, that's exactly what we're looking for. And let's take a look at it still says running. I hate that. I hate when these things get caught in that running state. That's really frustrating. But it's the way of the world. This new V8, I'm sure a lot of things will be changing with Google Apps Script in the near future. I'm going to actually just copy this. I wonder. Course group email. See, yeah, so some of this alternate link is there. Owner ID. What about embed? Not enrollment code. Get enrollment code. Set enrollment code. But it's not telling me the. Interesting. Okay. Well, not a problem, because not a problem, because what we're going to do, let's go back here. We're going to decline all of these. Okay, so I declined all the classes, and then I modified the mapping function here to take the original course and then to just tack onto the end the enrollment code and the alternate link, because that will then match up with the, I should do the link and then the enrollment code. So let's just shift that over. Where am I? I'm going to just move this. Okay, there we go. I'm going to remove this console log because what we're going to do is then write the course URL and share code back to the spreadsheet. So I actually need to get the range. And what we'll do is I will create another function here called write courses to spreadsheet. And we're going to pass it those responses. And we will create this function. I'll call it courses on this side again because these responses are actually the courses that we're going to use. Okay, and the last little step of the process, this write courses to spreadsheet, I just put it on the return because ultimately we're going to be returning true from this function so that hopefully in the future, let's see if I can blarg. It sometimes gets stuck in this running state here on the logs, which is the execution log, which is super frustrating when it's actually completed. I thought maybe if I return a value, maybe that won't happen anymore. But ultimately, what we're going to be doing is taking all those responses. We're going to grab the spreadsheet, and then we're going to set the values back in there and return true. Only way to see if this works, give it a run. Okay, so it has finished. I had to make 2 changes because what I realized was I hadn't defined my range properly here on line 22. I needed to remove 1 row because I'm starting on row 2. I need to remove 1 row because of the headers. And because I'm actually grabbing those extra columns, when I was destructuring into a new array, it was using the empty columns that I had existing here, the URL and share code, and it was just putting them on the end. So it wasn't matching with my range correctly. So this is a quick fix, probably not the best method, but a quick fix right here just to fit the range in there, because ultimately the number of courses is always going to be the same as what you write in at the end. It's not going to create courses that don't already exist in your spreadsheet. And then there you go. You have some courses. I'll just go through and accept all of them. Whoa. And make sure that the class code is the same. English 9, N64, and English 9, N64. There we go. Good way to create these things. Obviously, if you have actual email addresses, that is the ideal way to go. What you would want to do is set the owner to the actual email address. However, that's something to work out in your own implementation of this. But it is possible to create these courses from that, and in fact there are lots of other methods that you can do to administrate those courses from a single account. You have methods for course aliases, course announcements, assigning coursework, student submissions to coursework. A few years ago I worked on a comment harvesting project with another Google innovator, and that was very cool to see all of the comments on student submissions. And you have profiles, tons of stuff. look through the documentation, see how this could work for you, and leave me a comment below if there's a different implementation of a similar thing that you'd like to see. I'm more than happy to throw together a quick demonstration video of how to work with Google APIs. And with that, I'll talk to you next time.